Okay.
I'll tell you.
I know he has a problem with his hearing as well.
Yeah, I had a problem with my hearing. Like I still
Some
have
doesn't
trouble.
have a lot of respiratory issues.
I have knee and back pains. He probably also does. Like the army gives you a lot of knee and back pain. I don't know. Did you have any knee? Well,
I wasn't in that long. No, I don't have that. I mean, from time to time I'll hurt my back, but it always recovers. Okay, that's a big help because what I did, I opened that curtain myself and then I had a big glare on the board. So I have closed the curtain and now you can read the board. Okay. Let's see. Well, we're all back. I guess I'll start, and we'll start our test 5 minutes earlier than usual. My wife would appreciate it because she wants me to get home as quickly as I can, but all the same, I can't shortchange you pupils either, so I'll do the best I can.
Please start changing this. We okay?
when did you want to have the test?
Well, now let's see. Normally I get start the test at 3:15.
What about at 2:30?
Give me a little bit more time. I really want to discuss globalism.
Okay.
Now, all right, now let me tell you something. What I think about globalism, it's a very touchy issue.
What is
people-
globalism to start?
Globalism is where the whole world is one, and everybody is equal, and we all.
So it's like communism on a mass scale.
That's right. Now, something else about it. I was just teaching the other class a few hours ago how the Roman Empire allowed these German peoples who were uncivilized to come in. Now, I'm part German myself, but nevertheless, the Germans that were uncivilized, and they destroyed the Roman Empire. There are persons who are against the wall. No, wait, at the same time, the Chinese built a wall. The Romans, you might say, built a bridge. Both nations, China and Rome, had a problem with barbarian people. But in the case of the Chinese, it was the Mongolians. The Chinese used the wall to keep the Mongolians out. The Chinese survived, their civilization intact. The Roman civilization collapsed and never did revive. Latin ceased to be a spoken language. Now, if you don't like what I'm saying, I don't like it either, but I feel like I would say it. I'm against globalism. Purely and simply, and it's an issue because there are persons who say we ought to allow everybody in.
To every country.
From any country, I mean, anybody.
Does that mean I would be able
at all.
to travel all over? And then they can travel
Well,
all
it's
over
one
here?
thing, okay, to come in and stay and live and take up our job, that we're rich enough and we can afford to take anybody in who wants, just let them walk in, no laws, can walk in, live anywhere they want, and without any kind of legal work, just build a bridge, and just let them walk in and let them stay. And the problem with that is some of them are murderers, some of them are rapists, some of them are convicted criminals,
What
and they do a lot of
diseases?
damage.
How do we know what diseases they're bringing into our country? We're going to get.
Well,
we
that
don't
too,
know.
but the other issue is a moral issue. If you are going to build a society that invents things like we've invented the automobile, the airplane, the laptop computer, the cell phone, that can only be done with people who separate themselves from people who do not have any interest or any aptitude at all for any of that kind of stuff, and who just want to live on handouts or live like hunting and fishing and fruit gathering and picking berries and stealing from the neighbors' gardens and things like that. You let those people in to live among you, they'll destroy what you're trying to build up. You have to separate yourselves from. Now, I want to say too, a lot of persons, was on behalf of Adolf Hitler, whom I'm hard against. Adolf Hitler was against globalism also, of course. He was against it the wrong way. I'm against globalism. Globalism is, again, the idea where we're all one and the same. All right, I want to quote. I listened to a YouTube video. I got halfway through it. I mean, I listened to YouTube videos a lot of times while I'm trying to put myself to sleep. But I got halfway through this and I had to cut the man off. He said, the one thing I disagree with Donald Trump on is he wants to build a wall. I say build bridges. We're all God's children. I had to cut him off. To me, some people are not God's children. Children of Satan. I mean, I don't know if you believe in God or whatever, but it's not everybody is not God's children. I mean, all right. And if you disagree with that, your input is welcome. If you want to speak up.
I can't say that I necessarily agree that some of them are Satan's
Well,
children,
you're
but
gonna have
at the
some-
end of the day, listen, personally, I agree. You shouldn't be able to just walk into someone else's country without going through proper channels. You know, you want to come here legally, do what you will. That's not my business. If you're going to take all the years to then go through
See,
the process...
one thing that happened to Rome, they so completely mixed in with Italian society that the Latin language became a dead language. This is document. I mean, Latin was a spoken language.
It's a dead
Well,
language.
what would happen? I mean, all of a sudden we're not speaking English anymore. We're speaking whatever, Swahili or some language not even heard of, or even Spanish, perhaps. Well, so does our culture die with us, and so does supposedly our ability to invent,
Right,
to be
so,
creative.
again, like I say, I don't believe in globalism, but I don't think they're children of the devil. I just think that you're just...
Well, I'm not saying they all are, but I think some of them.
Right, I'm just
Some
saying.
of them, you know, we've let in really, really hideous, and some of them come in and they come back. We send them out and come back, but we let in some really, really bad people.
MS-13 and all that, yeah.
Oh yeah, yes, really. And I would hate to be in a high school with MS-13, and they put people through terror, and I'm afraid they would terrorize me. I mean, I was a young man once, a young child in high school, and we had bullies, but nothing to the extent of MS-13. But bullies have been, but MS-13, they've been the murderers.
I pity the virgin. I pity the virgin that stole my child.
You can, if you want
I
to.
pity them. Well,
But anyway, it might take more people like you to convince the world, hey, that we're not going to be pushed around. Anyway, that's globalism for you. George Bush, the father, Bush 41, talked about a new world order, NWO. In the new world order, there'd be nobody conquering anybody else. In the new world order, the United States would serve as the policeman, and this is back to the ancient period. And the United States would keep order among the nations. And any nation stepped out of line, the United States would be there to put them back in, like when Saddam Hussein stepped out of line by conquering and annexing Kuwait. He made Kuwait the 19th state, or 19th province. He used the word province. Kuwait became the 19th province of Iraq, and the United States came in and took Kuwait back and gave Kuwait back to its own people. But it was a new world order. In a new world order, there would be no conquest anymore. There would be none of Saddam Hussein's behaviors, and everybody would be under. What they finally killed Saddam Hussein for was he executed some people without a trial.
Is that 08 that they got him?
I believe it was 08, something like that.
07, 08?
Somewhere in that time frame, they got him. And it was because he hadn't followed. The people he killed were people who were leading starting an insurrection against his rule. Now, every ruler has the right to kill those kind of people, but he did it without following procedure. He was supposed to have had a trial, presented the evidence, convicted them, and then executed them. And then it'll give them a chance to defend themselves, and giving them attorneys, furnished attorneys, and all that. He didn't. But everybody would be under the same laws, uniform throughout the world, to where all criminals would have rights, same rights.
Who wrote the idea of globalism?
Well, Wendell Willkie, way back in 1940, wrote a book entitled One World. Wendell Willkie ran for president against Franklin Roosevelt. Who brought it up? The idea might go all the way back to Greek and Roman times. I don't know.
Okay.
It's something that's been with us, part of us, and I can't tell you, and I don't know if you have any idea who brought it.
And what would they suggest that who leads the world? Today's society, even if
You
we
don't
did
let us
accept
finish
globalism.
today.
Yeah, but I'm just, okay, when it gets into modern history, I have a lot of topics that I'd like to discuss that I kind of get carried away with.
Well, and that's good. Well, let me tell you something now. when I was in school, our teachers never got past World War II, and my sister, I wish I knew what was happening past World War II, but I was determined, I told my boss, Mr. Biggins, I'm going to at least get to modern times, no matter what it takes, no matter how much I have to skip it. He got to Richard Nixon, and didn't even get to, well, I got to Richard Nixon to be elected, and it was over for him. But I said, I'm going to get to, so I did. And I've gotten to the present. And anyway, all right. Globalism. But again, there's been a lot of people. Now, your question is, okay, just who dominates? And folks, that's a serious issue now. There was a book.
That's what I'm saying. Who would?
Yeah, okay, now let me tell you something. There was a man who wrote a book in 1963 entitled None Dare Call It Treason. His name was Stormer. He's deceased by now. But he wrote a book and he said, what if we gave the world power to the United Nations and the Afro-Asian bloc voted together, like they always do, to divide up America's wealth and redistribute it among all the African and Asian nations? Would it be right? Perhaps not, but would it be democratic? In other words, who would we give the power to? And that is a serious issue. A really, really serious issue. I fear that the power would inevitably fall into the wrong hands.
They have control over the revolt.
And they would have control, and that sooner an evil person, an evil group would get control. Whereas if you have nations divided, and Hitler might take over Germany, but if Franklin Roosevelt has taken over the United States, I mean, I'm not comparing the two, but they were not the same type of individual. And then it's divided. And then the United States, I mean, nobody in Germany could stand up to Hitler. And I've got a book at home where a man who went through this time said that it's going to take someone outside to stand up to Hitler, because each time Hitler rose to power, they thought somebody is going to stand up to him. The the Congress wouldn't. The president of Germany wouldn't. And finally, this man said, it looks like some foreigners are going to have to stand up to him. Ultimately, Stalin stood up to him, Churchill did, and Roosevelt did. They whipped Hitler. But what if Hitler had actually had the whole world?
There's actually a show about that on Amazon Prime, about if the Nazis had won World War II.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not.
It's called The Man in the High Castle. Take a look at it.
He would have tried, well, his goal was not just to get rid of Jews. He actually wanted to get rid of Christians also, but he didn't say that out loud because there were too many of them. But he wanted to revert Germany back to the worship of the old gods of Thor and Odin and Valhalla and Asgard and Loki and Freyja.
Asgard was the realm of the...
Yeah. He wanted to go back to that. And essentially, see, there were some people who got wind of this, and a few people who dared to try to oppose him inside Germany, and they were killed. And ultimately, the only people who could oppose him were the outside. But what if he had been in charge of the whole world? And again, there are people out there who are worse than Adolf Hitler, and they can get control, get the right, maybe not just one man, but a small group of men. In communist Russia, the Soviet Union, for 70 years, the Communist Party never had more than 2% of its members, of the population belonged to it. During the whole time that the Soviets were under communism, from 1917 until 1990. 2%, and they controlled it. But just 2% of the population. They controlled it because they were ruthless and nobody inside would stand up to them.
They couldn't. They were afraid of being killed.
They were afraid of being killed, and they would have been. Eventually, it fell down under the weight of its own excesses. All right. Anyway, now I will say this, folks. I've covered what I intended to cover. Now, I want to say this about next week's test. It'll begin at 1 o'clock.
Is that the final exam?
That's the final exam. Now, about a third of it will be what you see on the board here. I really have to quit because my throat's getting back. I hope you don't feel shortchanged. Hopefully nobody will tell me. All right, but all right. Anyway, a third of it will be what you see here. And the one date that you see here, yeah, I think you ought to know this date. The other 2/3 will be what we talked about during the semester.